Cessna will make you a pilot for $2,990 guaranteed. The ad got results. Cessna received this joint letter from 7 Kansas women. Dear Cessna, in response to your ad, we would like to order a pilot. They told how they wanted their pilot made. Male, quick learner, height 6 feet 2 inches, weight 190 pounds, shoe size 11, optional. Eyes dark brown, hair wavy brown. The women closed their letter like this. We see by your ad that this pilot is guaranteed. We prefer to take him on approval. We have several other friends interested in your pilot program. Could we get a discount on case lots? Well, I don't think Cessna was able to deliver on their promise to make a pilot for $2,290. Neither am I going to be able to be good on a promise to make you a thriving deacon ministry. But what I can do is spend some time telling you how we do this. Pastors, deacon chairmen, deacons, I want to spend some time talking to you about how we have put this together and how we carry this out and why this works for us. So find your workbooks and open them with me now to session number 2, How We Do Deacon Ministry. Here's the question. Where do we start? How do we get this going? This just really isn't the way we've done it in the past, or we've tried this in the past and it really hasn't gotten off the ground. How do we get this started? Well, the DNA of our deacon ministry is written into our bylaws. All of us have governing documents. You have governing documents, I have governing documents. It's important for us to write our deacon ministry into those bylaws. That is appendix number 1. Take just a minute and turn over there with me to appendix number 1 in the back of your workbook. Now, I've copied there for you everything in our bylaws that has to do with deacons. But in particular, you would want to find Roman numeral number 2, church officers, section 2, deacons, paragraph number 3, and I've highlighted it for you in blue. In accordance with the meaning of the work and practice of the New Testament, deacons are to be servants of the church, serving with the pastor and staff and performing pastoral ministries through the deacon ministry. So I just want to suggest to you, this is where it needs to start. Your bylaws need to specify the purpose of your deacon ministry, so there can be no question about it. So people in your congregation will have no expectations beyond what's listed here. So the deacons will never have any aspirations that will carry them beyond what is listed here. Create a culture of ministry in your congregation, a DNA of deacon ministry, by writing it into your bylaws. Go back and talk to your committees and get that started. With us, deacon ministry is instilled in each new deacon through our deacon election process. By this I mean the very process by which we elect deacons communicates to them what is going to be expected from them. It communicates to the church every time we do a deacon election. It reinforces to the congregation what it is deacons do. Here's how we begin our process. A letter is sent to every male church member who is at least 25 years old, who has been a member for at least 18 months, announcing the upcoming election. That is listed for you in Appendix 2. That's a copy of the actual letter that we sent out last time we did our deacon election. A few things I want to point out to you. The top of the letter, I try as best I can to clearly communicate to all the men receiving this letter the process. I want them to know, blow by blow, date by date, step by step, how we're going to go about this process. The bottom half of the letter, I'm informing all the men of our church what our deacon ministry is and what it is not. Now, I might just add, as you look at this letter, I mentioned that we send this out. It's contained in the first paragraph of the letter. We send this out to men who are 25 years old or older, who have been members for 18 months or more. Since the church calls deacons, not God, since the church calls deacons, as long as we are embracing the deacon qualifications set out in Acts chapter 6 and 1 Timothy chapter 3, we have some wiggle room as a church to kind of add some of our own definitions there. And these are two of them. In this congregation, our stipulations are, we have an age stipulation and a church membership duration stipulation. I would have you notice also that our deacon qualifications are printed on the reverse side of the letter. Each man is asked to review the qualifications and decide if he wants to participate. That's appendix number 3. Now, once again, we are free as a congregation to understand the biblical qualifications our own way. This may not be the qualifications the way you understand them as a congregation. That's your prerogative. We're not declaring that we're right, but to the best of our ability, this is the way we understand the qualifications to be, and we let the congregation know this is our understanding. These are not up for debate. Almost every time we do this, there'll be some young man come up and want to debate one of these issues. We just have to tell them, brother, I hear you, but these are just not up for debate. These are the qualifications as our congregation and our deacon body has embraced them, and this is the way it's going to be. We think they're good qualifications. Every man's given the opportunity to withdraw his name from the process by contacting the pastor's secretary by a certain date, by return postcard, phone, or email. Now, there was a time when this letter, Appendix 2, was sent out. We included in the letter a pre-postage paid, pre-addressed postcard, so that after reviewing the qualifications, if a man just said, I don't want to participate in this, he could just sign that card and send it back into the church office, and his name would be removed from the list. But we live in a day and age now of emails and telephones, and so most men will email the church office or call the church office and just say, take my name off the deacon election list. I do not want to participate. No questions are asked. His name is just removed. And many of our men take their name off the list. All remaining names are listed on a ballot. It's appendix number 4. Qualifications are printed on the reverse side of this ballot also. The ballot is made available to the congregation 2 weeks before the election. You might look at appendix number 4. So we send the letter out to every man in the church. In the letter, we specify the date that he must remove his name. If his request comes in after that date, his name doesn't come off the list. The ballot contains the names of all the men in the church who meet our age criteria, meet our 18-month membership criteria, who are not already active deacons, who have not taken their name off the list. Everyone else's name goes on the ballot. And you might notice by turning the page there, the deacon qualifications are on the back of the ballot also. Everyone has ample opportunity to review the names and review the qualifications. On the morning of the election, members raise their hands and deacons distribute new ballots, by the way, on different color paper. And we do that, you understand, so that people can't take the ballot home and make 100 copies of it and come back and cast 100 votes for their nephew, you know. So on the morning of the election, we put it on a different color paper. It's given to each member present. Proxy voting is not allowed. The question always comes up, I can't be there that day. Can we go ahead and fill out our ballots now and turn them in now? No. Must be here in order to cast a ballot. Members are asked to circle the names of as many men as they believe qualified to serve as deacons. And this has caused some angst among some pastors and deacons who are looking at our process, but the term one pastor used, and I like this, he says this is self-policing. We're always going to get names circled of men who don't qualify, but those are going to be in the minority. The truth is, at one time, if we wanted 4 deacons, we would ask everybody to circle 4 names. If we wanted 7 deacons, we would tell everybody to circle 7 names. But we've kind of gotten to the point now where we want as many deacons as we can get. You know, we would take 20 if we could find that many qualified ones. But normally what the case is people don't know 8 men who meet the qualifications. So most ballots come in with just 3 or 4 names circled. As they exit, members drop their ballots in boxes held by deacons standing at the exits. That afternoon, the Deacon Election Committee, which is made up of 3 deacon officers, which is all we have, and 3 other deacons appointed by the chairman, and they tally all the votes, and they destroy the ballots. Now, these next few items have to do with the work of that Deacon Election Committee. There is normally a cluster of names at the top of the tally sheet. Names below the cluster are disregarded. It's been our experience the Holy Spirit kind of ensures that toward the top of that tally sheet there's a cluster of men's names that separate themselves from those below it. We disregard all those below the cluster and give attention just to the names at the top. Based on personal insights, either the pastor or the Deacon Election Committee may remove candidates from the cluster of names with no questions asked. Let me tell you what this is about. I know, as pastor, I know things about folks in the church that the rest of the membership doesn't know. If there is a man's name is at the top of the list, and as pastor I just happen to know that he and his wife have filed for divorce, I'm not going to announce that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to spread that around, but I am going to say, you know what, guys? It's not a good time for this man to serve as deacon. Let's take his name out of the cluster. Or this deacon may be mortal enemies with a deacon that's already serving. So I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm just going to say, fellas, you know what? This is a good man, but this probably isn't a good time for him to serve as deacon. All the other members on that election committee have that same freedom. And I learned this the hard way. If one of those men says, Pastor, I've just got to check in my spirit about this man. Is it all right if we take him off the list? Absolutely. Don't need to know why. Take his name off. That process has served us well. The Deacon Election Committee divides into 3 teams of 2 men each and visits in the home of each remaining candidate. Now, I'll tell you why we do this. This may be the only opportunity we get into this man's home before he's elected deacon. This may be the only time we get to see the interaction between him and his wife. May be the last opportunity we have to visit with the wife, and she's an important part of this process. Each candidate is read the deacon qualifications again and asked if he qualifies. Now, the way this happens is they carry that list of deacon qualifications out there, and after some niceties and some visiting, the election committee will say, let us just read these qualifications one last time. And so they'll read them right off the list, and then they'll ask, without telling us, is there any reason on this list of qualifications that you would not feel comfortable serving as a deacon? We give that man one last opportunity to say, you know what, I think I'd rather not. Each candidate has read the deacon commitment and asked if he is willing to sign it. Let's go to appendix number 5. This may be one of the things that we do that is new to you. I want you to look at this. Appendix number 5. Passage from 1 Timothy chapter 3. And then in accepting the office of deacon, I will serve God's people according to the excellent standards of service established by the deacon body of First Baptist Church, Pflugerville. In general, I agree to assume personal responsibility for the church members assigned to me and minister to them in the name of the Lord Jesus to the best of my ability. I also agree to set a good example for my deacon families by faithfully attending Sunday school. That's kind of a general all-purpose statement. And then specifically there are statements about how many times they're going to commit to coming to deacons' meetings. They're going to make a commitment to doing deacon family ministry and visiting in the homes of their people and new members. They're going to make a commitment regarding tithing 1/10 of their gross income. And they're going to make a commitment to drink no alcoholic beverages socially or privately. As a church congregation, that's our position. By the way, appendix number 13, that we're not going to get into, is a position paper I've written there on our position regarding the drinking of alcohol and why. I might just add, our deacons are not the only ones to sign these kind of commitments. Every ministry leader in our church signs a similar kind of commitment. If they're worship leaders, if they're teachers, from nursery on up, all of them have to sign a similar kind of lifestyle commitment. But this is one of the reasons why our deacons are so involved in our work. Qualified and willing candidates are then announced to the active deacon body. No other names are shared. Election committee work is respected as confidential. In other words, these men are not asked about any of the other names that were on the list or what their rankings were. New deacons are installed at a church-wide ordination and installation service. Now, you may have questions about this process. I would ask you to hold them until our Q&A session here in just a few moments. But you can see why from the very beginning our deacons and our congregation have this unction. They understand their ministry and they're eager to do the work, and the congregation understands the work of our deacon ministers. Let's move on. Deacon ministry is managed by the deacon chairman and administered by the pastor secretary. We have been fortunate to have a long string of committed deacon chairmen. Our deacon officers are elected every year. They are allowed to serve 2 years in a row, but then after that they have to rotate off. But our deacon chairmen have all done a wonderful job administrating the deacon family ministry. Our current chairman is rotating off, and we've just elected a new chairman, and he's going to do a fine job at administrating this whole process. My secretary provides the administrative help for him. Under that category, all deacons sign the deacon commitment annually. Go back to that appendix number 5. Not only do new deacons sign this commitment, every year, every one of our deacons re-signs this deacon commitment. I've got a folder over my file at the church office with a deacon commitment signed by every active deacon on file from last January. We're about to do it again. Deacon chairman ensures that gets done. Deacon family assignments are made according to adult classes. There have been a lot of deacons and pastors ask about this. This just makes sense. Deacon's already involved in a Sunday school class. He already knows these people. He's already involved in their lives, already going through their fellowships. It makes sense to assign the deacon to the adult class in which he's involved. It just makes sense. But now some of those classes are large, and so we have classes that have 2 deacons in that class and assigned to the class. We have a couple of classes that have 3 deacons assigned to that class. Sometimes the teacher is the deacon for that class, which makes sense also. If that's something, a responsibility he wants to take on, he can be the teacher. He's going to interact with them anyway. He might as well be their deacon. Not all teachers are deacons, by all means. All members are introduced to their deacons via mail or email. New members are assigned to a deacon in the pastor's new member letter. That's Appendix 6, if you want to take a moment, look at that. This letter goes out to everyone who joins our church, no matter how they join our church. There in the 3rd paragraph, your deacon is Joe Deacon. We actually have a man named Joe Deacon. No, we don't. Your deacon is Joe Deacon. Listen to this. He will be contacting you within the next 3 weeks to get acquainted with you and to make himself available to you if you have any needs. That's why we said every deacon has 3 weeks to get in contact with his families. We're going to show you how that's followed up on here in just a moment. The deacon is introduced to new members who've been assigned to him via an email from the pastor's secretary. Look at appendix number 7. Appendix number 7 is the email that goes out to the deacon. The thing that's important for you to see here, and we didn't include it, but do you see the attachment? As this email goes out to the deacon saying this person has been assigned to your family, a photograph of that person is attached. We take pictures of all of our new members on the spot, and that photograph is sent out to the deacon so that he knows what his new family looks like. The deacon has 3 weeks to visit each new member assigned to him. When the pastor learns of a member's illness, he's ensured that the deacon has already been notified, as indicated by the member's needs email. That is Appendix 8. There's nothing magical about the way that looks. All that is, it's an email that is sent to the deacon by my secretary. Sunday school teacher is copied, and I'm copied. So whenever I get an email from my secretary telling me of an illness in the church, I know the deacon has already been notified. He is the first line minister. He's my associate minister. He's the one who has the primary responsibility of meeting that need, and he gets out there and gets it done. When the pastor learns of a member's illness, he's ensured the deacon has already been notified, as indicated by the new member's email, Appendix 8. The pastor's secretary collects deacon family home visitation reports and updates the deacon chairman prior to the deacon's meeting. This is how we do it, and I think this is in the process of undergoing some changes, but Appendix 9, whenever a deacon makes an in-home visit, no matter what it may be one of his annual visits, it may be a new member visit, it may be a needs visit, but whenever a deacon makes an in-home visit, he fills out this form and either sends it to the church office, or we have a place in the multi-purpose building behind us here where he puts that card. Our secretary picks them up. She keeps track of those, and she notifies the deacon chairman before the deacons meeting. If deacons are not keeping up with the responsibility, then our deacon chairman mentions that in the deacons meeting, and no deacon wants his name mentioned in the deacons meeting and he's not being current on his visits. Finally, the deacon chairman manages the deacon ministry in the monthly deacons meeting. I want you to take just a moment and look at the agenda in Appendix 10. This is an actual agenda from March of this year. We included this just before I went out and made this presentation at a church. What I want you to notice here is there's an absence of any business being conducted. No business is discussed in our deacons meetings. Our deacons meetings are not pre-business meetings. In fact, sometimes just out of curiosity, business is brought up and someone will call foul. No, that's business. That's none of our business, and we're not going to talk about that in the deacons meeting. No business is discussed in our deacons meeting. Prayer room assignments are made. Lord's Supper is discussed. Names of new members who have been contacted or not being contacted by their deacon. Comments regarding deacon visits. Men are praised and admonished. Update on the Acts 6:1 ministry. I get to make some comments there. I try to hold that to a minimum. Look down at the bottom. Prayer requests. Here's where the deacons are coming to the deacons meeting, bringing with them needs from their families. And as a deacon brings a need to be prayed for among the deacon body, that deacon will fill out a card. We have these cards. We bring them with us to the deacons meeting. He fills out a card to that person, and then he sends it around the room, and all the other deacons sign it. So that as we conclude the meeting, many, many cards are sent out to all the people who were prayed over that night, signed by all of our deacons. I want to share with you one example of why we go to such great lengths to administrate and do deacon ministry and hold such a high standard. Here's a testimony from one of our men. About a year and a half ago, a lady called the church office and wanted to speak to her deacon. During the conversation, she told the secretary that a number of years earlier, she and her husband had moved several miles east of town and had joined another church there, but had never really connected with them. The secretary asked her who her deacon had been when she was in our church, and she gave her my name. When the secretary contacted me and gave me directions, I drove out to the lady's home. As I entered the home, she came over and hugged me and said her husband was dying of cancer. We had a long visit, and during that visit, I was able to lead her husband to faith in Christ Jesus. Not long after that, he went to be with the Lord. I'm glad she remembered my name, and I'm glad to be a part of this church's deacon ministry. Man, that's why we work so hard at doing New Testament deacon ministry.